and it will be turned over to law enforcement to be for their violation, and turned over to, it says here, the United States Attorney General and the Attorney General of the state, and that's comes straight from, Paul can explain that for us if we need to, but that's where that rule come from. 285 through 306 is the plan that has to be submitted to the USDA. You know, we got 60 days. The Department of Ag does once we pass this bill to submit a plan. For some reason, it's got the information that has to be in the plan. That's the minimum that requires what you see here. And other stuff that can be in there as well, and that's per the farm bill that was passed. And then the last two sections, sections 2 and 3, all they're doing is just moving industrial hemp from the definition of marijuana in those two code sections, in sections 2 and 3. And at this time, I will stand for questions, and if it would please the committee, I would like to get Dr. Moore and Jonathan Miller up here as well, and they can answer some of the questions you have.
If it's all right with you, because I know a big part of today, this is a very complex issue.
Yes.
It's hard to understand in an hour, and I've been looking at the people who've signed up to testify. Before we start asking questions, in particular, I would like to hear from Moore at the University of Georgia. I'd like for him to make some comments,
Yes.
and then we'll kind of go from. Is that all right with you?
That is perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And now, Dr. Moore, you're the Associate Dean of Research for the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences at the University of Georgia. Is that right?
That's correct. Thank
Go
you very
Dogs,
much.
and go ahead.
Go Dogs. Yes, what that means is I'm a scientist and not a lawyer, thank goodness. So hemp hasn't been grown in the state of Georgia for a while, and so the university, if you choose to pass a bill, has been preparing so that we can be leaders in growing hemp. There are a lot of issues that we need to make sure we cover for the state of Georgia. Obviously, the number one issue is making sure that the crop doesn't exceed the 0.3% THC level. We've got breeders that believe that they are able to breed for improved varieties that'll ensure that. But like all things in biology and in farming, you know, we need to find out. We need to know how things work in Georgia. So we're prepared for that. We put together a team of researchers led by Tim Coulong, who's a horticultural scientist, to investigate what would be the best practices for the state of Georgia. The one thing we would ask that the committee look at carefully, that the language in the bill allows us to begin research right away. There's a bit of a gray area because the 214 Farm Bill permitted us to do research if the state allowed it. The state of Georgia had not yet done that. The 218 Farm Bill comes in, but it also has this language that says the USDA has to approve your plan. We would like the language to clarify that the research can begin immediately before the USDA has approved the plan. So there's a gray area between the 214 and 218 Farm Bills that we would hope would be clarified. But we're ready to try and ensure that the state of Georgia has the best hemp production in the nation. We've learned a lot from our cousins up in Kentucky. I started my career in Kentucky. I can tell you that I think the University of Georgia is better, so we should be all right.
You're exactly right.
Thank you.
Okay, Jonathan Miller. It says something about general counsel. Does that mean he's a lawyer? Okay.
I'm a lawyer who's been told to shut up about whether the University of Kentucky is better, so I won't comment on that. I'm Jonathan. I'm a recovering politician. I was the state treasurer of Kentucky for 2 terms. I ran for governor until the people of Kentucky overwhelmingly told me not to run for governor, and so I've become a lawyer instead, and kind of found myself accidentally in this world when the agriculture commissioner of Kentucky asked me for help in getting hemp legalized in Kentucky back in 2013. We were very successful once we were able to demonstrate the difference between hemp and marijuana. Then we worked with our senator, just like your governor got to be the head of the USDA, our senator has gotten to be the Senate Majority Leader, and Mitch McConnell became the biggest champion of hemp, got the 2014 Farm Bill passed that you've heard about, and then got hemp legalization through the 2018 Farm Bill. I know you want to keep things short, so I just want to, first of all, praise and thank Representative Corbett and the House for their leadership and all their hard work on this, and want to tell you how strongly we support Georgia becoming the 42nd state to join the hemp world, and I know you all want ultimately to be number one. I'll let you come in at number two if you don't mind. But I do want to say the one thing that we would love to see the Senate improve upon the House bill is to in the last few months we've begun to learn more and more what the differences between this new 2018 structure and what happened in 2014. And one of the key differences is we've learned over the last several years about what parts of the plant are the most valuable for farmers. When we used to think of hemp, we thought about the stalks and the stems and the seeds. We thought about rope and canvas and uniforms. And now, over the last, particularly the last decade, there have been this revolution in using the tops of the plant, the flowering tops. Now, remember, these do not have any meaningful THC in them. They have less than 0.3% THC. If you tried to smoke them, you'd only get a cough. It wouldn't get you marginally intoxicated. But there have been so many exciting revolutionary changes that have become, when we see in the world of not just fabrics, but in food and in nutraceuticals. So much so that Kentucky has, and since Representative Corbett got his information, we've just learned in the last few weeks, that they've approved over 1,000 growers in this new year coming up who've applied to farm 42,000 acres this year. Now, that they won't do them all because, this is what they've applied for. But in order to farm in Kentucky, you have to already have an agreement to get your products processed. So this isn't just imagined farming. This is real farming. And 75% of those projects are using the flowering top. There are many numbers of products. The one that's most popular these days you hear about is cannabidiol or hemp-derived CBD. Again, this is not medical marijuana. This is not for medical purposes, but this is for general health and wellness and nutrition. But I've prepared for you all a two-page summary of the kinds of improvements that we would recommend to bring Georgia more into line with the federal law, and to also more into line with the Kentucky program, because the more opportunities you give, the more farmers in Georgia are going to appreciate it. And if you limit the uses of hemp to only the stalk and the stem, as the House bill currently does, you're going to unfortunately not allow Georgia farmers, hemp farmers, to be able to compete with Kentucky or with Mississippi or Alabama or South Carolina, North Carolina, etc. So we would love to see Georgia become a real leader here. And again, I'll be happy to pass these out or share these however you want. But these amendments take the federal bill and will help make a good bill 213 from the great work of Representative Corbett into a really great bill.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give the committee an opportunity now. We're going to hear testimony. We have several people signed up, but Chairman Corbett, would you like to, and if you want to call on someone to help you or whatever, that'll be.
If Dr. Moore and
Okay.
Jonathan Miller could stay here just to.
All right.
If
Do
somebody,
we have any questions from the committee? Chairman Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have a number of questions, if that's okay with the chairman.
Yeah, just go to it. When you go too far, I'll tell you to cut it off. Okay.
Chairman Corbett, first off, thank you for your due diligence. I know you have spent many, many hours on this issue, and first off, thank you for all of your work. I'm just going to kind of dive right into the bill, if that's okay, and we'll just kind of go through this and my line of questioning and what concerns that I have when I read it. One of the provisions in the legislation states that it shall be unlawful for a permittee to accept for processing hemp grown outside of the state of Georgia. My concern...
that's lines 86 through 91.
That's correct. My concern in that specific provision, and obviously we can get with legislative counsel to discuss it, but I just want to bring it up for the committee's understanding that we may have an issue with the Commerce Clause under that provision, and maybe that's something that we can look at going forward. I think it's something that probably needs to be looked at or addressed.
And I agree with my research since we passed this bill, and I think if it's line 86, if
That's correct. It's
it
line
removed.
86.
87 just talks about as long as the other state that we're shipping
That's
it to,
right.
if they have a plan in place, we won't want to be able to ship it to somebody that doesn't have a plan approved by the USDA. So I think the other lines are probably okay.
I would agree with that. I just think line 86 may cause some Commerce Clause
And
issues, and we can have that discussion offline. If you want
and
to.
Ledge Council's making notes over there, and we'll definitely have a substitute when we come back.
I noticed in lines 120 through 122, and then through 162 through 164, you have in here where a permit or a license can't be issued if you're convicted of a felony. I know in some other states, I think Kentucky actually had a provision where even if you were convicted of a misdemeanor for drug possession, that you couldn't get a license or a permit either. I would just throw that on the table to tighten the language up and maybe ease some concerns that some of our law enforcement community may have. That this would help with that issue. I just wanted to throw that out there.
And I would be acceptable to that as well. I don't have an issue with that.
I think kind of getting to the heart of the matter for me is in the bill, it limits the number of processors in Georgia
166.
to 12. And not only does it limit the number of processors, if you compare our version to what other states have done, you have a significant permit fee to get into the industry of $100,000 to be a processor in state. I think Kentucky is at $25,000. I think South Carolina's provision is actually where in South Carolina, I think it's no more than the cost of issuing or the structured program.
Administering the
if I remember
program.
their language correctly. Are you open to maybe expanding the number of processor permits, and can we have a conversation about reducing the permit fee and even the annual fee to be maybe more in line with what some of our neighboring states have done? And I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, and obviously.
Is that something we need to discuss here? We do it offline and bring a sub back? Well, what's the will of the committee?
I think we probably need to get together offline and bring a sub back to the committee.
Okay.
I don't think we